Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Grant Cameron, and I want to thank you for taking time from your valuable life to be with me. My guest today is Yossi Ronen, who I've had on a couple of times. I've talked to him a number of times. He's done a number of interviews. He did a book on the concept of oneness. When I heard that he had had this experience and he'd got this message, I immediately linked into trying to contact him because it's the same sort of intuitive message that I was getting. It completely aligns with what I've been told. And I think his message is very important. And over the last couple of months, he's done interviews based on his book that we'll link in the show notes. And the more I listen to Yossi talk, the more I realize what he's been given is very, very deep stuff that very in tune with what's going on. So I'm very happy to have known him to help him get his book out there. I suggest that everybody read this book. I believe this is the answer. This is what this is all about. And today we're going to talk about art. So Yossi's with me, and I had put up a posting a couple of months ago, I guess, talking about the fact that I believe there was an association between art and UFO experiencers. It appeared to me that a lot of the UFO experiencers are very good artists, or when they have their experience, they suddenly go out and buy canvases and they start painting. And so I knew this connection existed. I really wasn't into art. The same as I knew there was a connection between UFOs and music. You'll see a very strong connection between people who write music, how many famous musicians are experiencers. And so you have this connection. So I put out a proposal that I wanted to interview experiencers about their art. And Yossi contacted me and said that he had done art. So that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to go through a little bit about his background on the story of what happened to him. And then we're going to look at the connection to art. And Yossi will take over the screen, and we will look at some of his art. And I'm anticipating there's going to be some very strong messages in there that everybody should pay attention to. So, Yossi, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate your taking time to be with me.
Great. It's always a great time to talk with you.
Beautiful. And I want to again acknowledge you did an interview. This would be last week or the week before, and I was just stunned at the stuff that you were coming up with, and very happy to hear that you're doing a second book, because you apparently you had this experience back a number of years ago, and you can actually sort of go back to the experience and get more information. Correct? Is that true? So let's go quickly through the story of when you had this encounter, and
Okay.
then we'll go from there.
Okay, the encounter was 40 years ago, at 81. I was 21 years old. I was living for a year with my brother in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He had a small business of painting there, and I came to help him. And it happened, I think, a month after I came to to work with him. After noon, we came back from work. You know, it's a very physical, hard work. And we went to rest afternoon. And suddenly, I found myself dreaming that I'm out of my body, which it means that I was out of my body and I thought that I was dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that out of body, I saw myself on the bed with the face to the wall, and I was, it's like my consciousness was watching the room, and I was above my body. And then that was the first time that I saw the aliens there. I call them aliens, but I think we can give them many names because we don't know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And I call them the visitors in the book. And there were a couple of them in the room. In that situation that I was looking at them without my body, it was very pleasant. And we all were aware of each other. And my consciousness or spirit, I don't know how to say about that, was communicating with them with a very pleasant communication. They were like friends from childhood or family, or it looked like I know them in that situation. And they were very cheerful, and it looked like it was very new for them to be in a body, walking on the carpet in the room and looking at stuff, looking at the table, looking, watching a new paper that was on the table and touching it, crumble it, and they were very curious. And one of them was looking at was very close to my body, watching him maybe doing stuff to my head, I don't know what, but it was good. I was very happy for what he was doing. And we were laughing. They are very cheerful and happy. In that situation, I felt very good with them. And then I woke up from that, what I thought it was a dream, and I heard noises behind of me. And so I was still with my face to the wall, and I thought that maybe, I don't know, I heard people walking, maybe whispering, touching stuff, and I thought maybe a thief came. I started to be a little bit tense. So I turned around, sat on the bed, and suddenly I saw those same creatures that I saw in the out of body standing looking at me. And the one that was near my head was half a meter from my face, looking at me with these big black eyes, and I was very frightened at the beginning. My muscles start to be tense. I almost was paralyzed from fear. And the memory of a couple of seconds ago that we were together and we were happy without fear, it was even with a lot of love, it made me try to see if the fear was only mine. And in a minute that I lowered the fear, I started to communicate with them and go into their consciousness. They let me be with them in this way. I make the story very short because we already talked about it. So I make it short. And the thing was that they let me had their consciousness to be one with them. And that was amazing because when I felt their consciousness, the first thing that I felt that they were all connected, but not in one brain. They were all, each one of them was very individual with his own personality, but they were connected, and they let me be connected with them. And their consciousness was very, very wide and amazing one, because they are not limited by their bodies. They were very conscious for everything that was in the room or outside of the room, and I just started to go inside their consciousness, and it was like a journey inside. I felt that their consciousness is very open, and their meaning of going like we walk and see things is by their consciousness. They can move their consciousness anywhere they want by their will. And the opportunity that they gave me to be with their consciousness, I could do that too with them, to have their consciousness. And I felt their feelings and their thoughts, and they were very coherent with each other, the emotions and the thoughts, and they were very calm and very peaceful, and very much connected to a very strong light that in the time after that I can translate it to what we say about God. They seem to be very aware of it, much more than us. We treat it like we believe it or not. We don't know really what it is, but they are really aware, and they are aware of that light that gave them life and everything. And that was the first time that I felt this, and from that day on, I believe I know God.
Wow.
Because they, yeah.
Yeah. No, let me ask you one question before we go to the art, and that is, maybe you'll work on this on in your second book. And that is, if you've seen, I did an interview with Ron Johnson, and he describes sort of the same thing, where he's in his bed and suddenly he's standing up in his bed and he's in the middle of his body and he sees the body on the bed. Did they give you any indication about this whole thing? Because you know how the scenario goes. People say, "Oh, there's these evil aliens, and they grab you out of your bed, and they're taking you and probing you and stuff like that." And when you talk and when Ron talks, you start getting this idea, hey, this may not be as physical as people think it is. Did they give you any indication about this idea about what's actually going on in terms of being out of the body and this sort of stuff? And hopefully you'll talk about this in your second book, because I think this is an important concept that people are sort of missing, that this may not be as physical as people think it is.
Yes, very much. And I think it's very, very important, because when we're gonna realize what's going on, it's going to be much easier for us to understand the weirdness and the differences of people that have their experience with them. One of the things that you confront immediately when you look at them is that they are not solid like everything in the room. I mean, when you look at the table, it's very solid and physical, but when you look at them, you see a body, you see face, you see eyes, and they walk and all of that stuff, but you know that they are not solid and physical as everything else. And that could be very, very confusing, because you can think that this is your imagination. Mm-hmm. And this is the most, I think, problematic thing for all of us when we communicate with them, because we only start to realize how to communicate with something that it's not totally physical, but you still can be aware of that. Mm-hmm. And in that situation, it's like the first lesson for me was to realize that what I see is a communication of my way of translating, or my way of looking at something that it's not complete what I see. What I mean, it's a combination of how you translate them and their personality. Mm-hmm. So if in the beginning, in the first second that I woke up and saw them, I was afraid. I was paralyzed from fear, because it was still unknown for me, and I felt the immense power of being aware of my consciousness, being aware of my thoughts, being aware of my feelings. And it was very threatening, because I thought that they are start to controlling me. But that was the misinterpretation of their ability to be one with you. And we translate it like someone going force inside you and do whatever we want. So the fear is the first reaction for oneness in the beginning, because you start to feel, you hear voices in your head or you see things and you get confused and you say, listen, what's going on here? How can they observe my thoughts? But in a minute that I relaxed from that fear, I knew that the communication is in both of us, and just the same that I can hear my thoughts, I can hear them too, because we are one. And then you go out of the fear, and you can be relaxed and have their really full of consciousness. So I think that many times that people have a bad communication, it's the first confronting of the unknown that instinctively is fear, because you don't know what is standing near you, and because it's so much powerful, you are afraid.
Wow. That's why I think it's so important for people to listen to experiencers, because unless we listen to people like you who have had these encounters, we're not going to understand what's going on, because you have picked it up. You may not fully understand what's going on, but Dave, you've had the experience, and you sort of realize it's not exactly the way people think it is, and you're trying to interpret. So I think it's very important, your message, that you keep putting this out. That's the only way we're going to learn as to what's actually going on. Have you got your book there that you can show up before we go to the?
Yeah, I have the
Yeah,
book here.
yeah,
Here it is.
one.
Yes.
And I will absolutely maintain that is the number one message. That's what it's all about. And so I encourage people to get the book and to read it and to actually watch your interviews, because I think you're saying some stuff that's very, very important, very, very profound, and it does help answer what's actually going on. And so I appreciate your coming out with that. One question that I never thought of, and I have to ask this before we go to the art, is I never asked you, and I don't think anybody else has asked you, what happened with your brother? Did you tell your brother, and what was his reaction to this thing? And has your brother had any experiences?
Yes, my brother had the experience not in that year. In that year, he I didn't tell him in the beginning what happened, because I was very confused. I didn't tell nobody.
Yeah.
I started to, in the beginning, I wanted to know if I was sane or not, because it was too much. And couple of years after that, my brother had an experience, but his experience was very, he was afraid.
Okay.
He was afraid, and he didn't know how to observe it, how to digest it. It was make him very confused. He didn't know if he thought that maybe thieves came to the room and spray him with something that make him hallucination, make him.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't, I don't. We lived it like that, and I felt that it made him very confused, and we didn't talk about it. I let him think what he wants. And,
yeah. When did the idea come up for the book? When did you decide that you wanted to go sort of tell the story and be public and do the book? How did that all occur?
it started mostly 10 years after the contact. When, after the contact, that I already realized that many people have this kind of contact, not only me, because it was many years ago and there were no internet. I didn't know that many people.
Okay.
And I started to hear many bad stories of people, and because I knew that this contact is very important and very good for us, I decided that I should talk about that and to really try to explain the way we can be afraid without a reason when we contact them. So that was the first reason for writing the book. And it was not easy for me in the beginning because still, after I started to talk about that, most of the people then didn't get it good on those years. Now it's something very new, and it makes me very happy that people start to realize that there is something there that they should, that they are curious. It's enough to understand what's going on.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go to the screen and maybe start. You can take over the screen and we'll go to the art and describe when did the art start? Has it been a lifetime thing, or did it change your life? Type of art you did when you had the experience sort of fit it into your life. Does it have some connection?
Yes, the art was very part of the connection because in the end of the contact, the face-to-face contact, they show me a vision. It was a visual vision, the vision of the fire and this kind.
Oh yeah.
I have a slide of something I did with the computer of that. But the visual thing that we get when we connect with them is very, very strong for most of the people. Part of the people think that they gave them visuals, and they can do that too. I mean, in the beginning of the contact, we were like one, but when they wanted to give me a very important message about how we should treat each other and earth and animals, they gave me a vision, and they gave me it like a movie that I'm inside of it. It seems that they have this ability to get into probably our right brain,
yeah.
where the imagination of us sit there and like use it for us. And like give us pictures. So it continues with that each time I wanted to understand something that they told me, or I understand, that was hard for me to really understand it rationally. I ask them for getting a visual picture for what they mean, like to help me to translate this abstract idea to a picture that I can observe and maybe understand it more like that. So the basis of my art is coming from this, from trying to give a visual form to something that is not rational.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And something that before I will show these pictures is that the fear that we talked before is very connected to the art, and it's connected to probably a very early age that I had a connection that I didn't knew about till I was 35, and I had a hypnotic regression. In that hypnotic regression, he really showed me that in age 3 we had a connection. But why I'm talking about that? My child, when he was I think 4 or 5, had nightmares. Okay. He had fear. He had, like every child, don't leave the light on.
Yep.
Close the cupboard, I'm afraid. And I told him, why you are afraid? And he told me, I'm afraid that something going to come out of the cupboard. I see their stuff. You see the clothes there, and in the darkness, it becomes to something. His imagination from it in a way. So I remember that when I was a child, I had this same thing. I was afraid of shadows on my wall in the night from the light that came from the window that make shadows of the tree, that shadows was moving on my wall, and I was very afraid.
Yeah.
So what happened that I started to think maybe I'm afraid because I joined this shadow to a figure, and I see monster on the wall. Those shadows become to be a face and teeth and something frightened. And I decided to try to form it in a different way, maybe a beautiful fairy. I was a kid,
Yeah, yeah.
and I realized that I can do that.
Wow.
So when my child told me, I told him, maybe try to look at I will leave the door open of the cupboard and see the things that you see there and try to make that a good picture. And they could do that. And he relaxed. And from that day on, the nightmares become to be a little bit easier for him.
Wow.
So what I mean by that, this is the same thing. When we see something that we don't know how to translate, we can translate it in our decision. We can form it in our way of thinking. If we are afraid and we think about monsters, when we see the aliens, we can see a monster because it's not physical totally. And we have to realize it in our left brain to something. And our left brain do it with the form of our inner translation.
Very, very interesting. I'll send you by email. I actually had a vision last night. That's exactly what it was. It was the idea that you see something. I don't know if you've ever seen the Bashar thing, this channeler, where he says when you look in the mirror and you smile, it's not that the mirror is smiling. You have to smile before it reflects in the mirror, and
Right.
and that's how you change it. That's what it was this idea that I'd see something, and then I'd realize that what I was seeing was a reflection of my attitude. That when
Exactly.
I calmed down, it would change to something else. And it's
Yes.
weird that you bring that up because I had that vision last night. It was very weird.
Nice, nice. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And people don't realize this idea that you're manifesting, that a lot of what you're seeing is determined by your attitude and what people think it's objective, that there's an objective world out there that's different, and we don't realize that we're interacting with the world. So I'm glad you're bringing this out. I'm so interested in your story. It's so revealing. I think you've got an inside, and I think people should listen carefully to what you're saying. So let's go with the art, and let's see.
Okay.
Can you share? I'm having to let you share here.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. Okay, good. And when did the art start? Have you been doing it your whole life?
No, not at all. It started it's interesting too. It started 3 months before the contact. Before that, I didn't had any interest in art at all.
Wow.
And yeah, this is the crystal. I got this idea of the picture when I wanted to understand this oneness that they are try to make me realize very strongly. The oneness is something that I felt with them, and it's looked very innocent and beautiful. But when I look at our world, it's very hard to think how can the oneness can be, how or what they mean by this oneness, what's going to happen really with this oneness. And it's like my question is, was like how different people or different religious or different ideas can be one with each other. And they show me this crystal and I realized that the crystal is a symbol, and and dreams and visions of them came with symbols like our dream, very similar.
Okay.
And the symbol of the crystal means that the crystal have many faces, but all of the faces are one crystal.
Okay.
And
Okay. Interesting.
what I understood from that the faces of different people, different ideas, different religious, that can be one. They are one. It's not that it should be one that is right and the other is wrong. The thing is that our ideas probably should be combined with each other. Our ideas of belief and it's not a matter of good and bad. There is no better than other. It means that each way of thinking have its own important place. And another thing is that each idea he is connected to the oneness. It's part of it, and it's like if we take it to different religious or beliefs, you can say that if you go and be one and deep into your way of thinking, you're going to end up with the oneness.
Wow.
What I mean is that each one of us have his own specific something that nobody else have. We have our own consciousness that he is very individual, and this individuality of each one of us is the way to the oneness.
Okay.
So it's not that you have to be someone else. You have to be you, very, very, very much yourself. And when you got to yourself, you got to the oneness. And it's look the opposite. It's look that if we want to be one, we have to compromise or get other thinkings. It seems that what they meant is that if you are really true with yourself, with your own individuality, you will be combined to the one, because you're going to get to the point very deep inside of you that is connected to everyone.
Okay. Wow.
Because we are all connected already. And the way to get to this oneness is through your individuality.
Wow. Well, one of the things I noticed that if I don't know if you've read Donald Hoffman, he talks about this idea that you really can't see reality. All you see is the interface to reality, and that seems to be what the art is about. Is they're saying this is what reality is like. This is not reality. This is a symbol that helps you understand what reality is all about, and that may be why they're giving these images, because it's a very hard concept to grasp. So they give you these sort of analogy images that show you what reality is actually like, but you can never really see reality. Reality's behind. It's almost like the idea of a video game. You're not seeing reality. You're just playing this video game, and the reality is way down in the computer, in the electronic stuff. You think it looks real, but it's not. And I think that's key to me, is that you're showing the same sort of thing, different ways that they show oneness. They'll show you this. What is the idea of the broken piece of earth or concrete or whatever that was? There symbolism behind that?
I think it's time. The concept of time is and was another thing that they wanted me to understand, and finally I start to understand it. Is for them, time is not separate for past, present, and future.
Okay.
And in this picture, this old stone that the crystal is on it it's and they both flying on the air. That it's not standing on the
Okay.
ground; it's flying. What the meaning is that when the oneness is completed with you, it's like that you get beyond nature, and you can be, you know, you're gonna be out of the rules of grounding laws of physics, something
Wow.
like that. And the
And what's
connection.
the what's the whatever it is, the sort of like a I don't know what you even call it, the white
It's like
almost looks
a
like a sheet type thing.
sheet. Yeah, it's the connection between the sky and the ground,
Okay.
the upside and the downside. They always do that. They show me always that the sides, the good and bad, the light and dark, are actually one. And we
Wow.
are start to we are we struggling with the idea that there are good and bad, and that make us very, you know, the good and bad is the basic of our struggling with ourselves and with each other. And it seems that they want us to realize a different way of looking at that. And it's a little bit hard to grasp, but in each picture there is some idea of that good and bad, that they are one. How can that be? What's the idea?
Yeah. That's the advanced concepts that you have to get across. Other people have done the same thing. I think everybody's getting the same message, that the evil is within the good, and for a lot of people who are in the physical world, it's just like, nah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just like, and they're trying to get this concept across. And I guess you are. Do you see yourself sort of as a messenger for whatever they're trying to put across?
I don't know. I think first of all, we all connected,
Yeah.
and each one that have an idea or inspiration of something like
Yeah.
music, and he bring it down to earth, we all share it, if we see
Yeah.
it or not.
Yeah.
So
Everybody's inputting. Yeah.
I think they do it for many people, and we are having that together. It's not that one messenger. I think we all do that together.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. Beautiful. And how long did it take, and when was this done? This painting?
This picture,
Yeah.
it was very fast because I saw it. I saw it in my dream, complete.
Wow.
And I just had to copy it from my dream to the canvas.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
there are a few that I got them ready. It was amazing. Yeah,
Wow. Oh,
this is the
yeah.
vision that they gave me. The picture of the fire and the cows, the frightening fire that burned everything. So I made a computer. I wanted to show how they can give us very detailed pictures of something.
Yeah.
It was alive. The cows were looking at my eyes, like waiting for me, like blame me. I don't know, make me responsible for what happened to them.
Yeah. That you
And
should have protected them. Isn't that what they were
yes,
giving
and
the
it
idea?
happened to many people. Almost everyone that met them have this kind of vision. And it seems that it is very important for them to give us this realization that we are very responsible of what's going on here.
Yeah. And just to point out, you pointed out, but just to reiterate that a lot of people are shown this, like they're showing it on a screen or they're showing it in their mind, this sort of warning, or if you keep going, this is what's going to happen. Sort of like a lot of people have experiences, have had given these
Yes,
visions.
yes, yes. Okay, this is one of the pictures that for the same question that I wanted to understand the oneness, how to digest the idea that bad and good can live together. And what they like explain me is that the good and bad is already together, and we make the separation. We make the separation because this is the way our rational thinking is now. Like it's not a bad thing that we make separation, because this is the way we live. This is the way we build things, do mathematics, and this kind of stuff. But the thing is that we can achieve a way of holding this understanding of the separation. But what they showed me, that the light and the darkness are one, and we can look. They show me like the dark sky when we see the stars at night. The space look very black, but actually what's going on there, that there is a full of light, that this darkness is full of light, but there is nothing there to show the light. If you put something beneath the light, you see the light because it hits, like the words that written there. This is another way of understanding the good and bad as one. I put here a flower with a butterfly, and behind it I put this, Star of David, how you call
Sorry,
it?
David. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea here is that the good and the bad, when the good and bad, the up and down, the left and right, you can take it to even our life now, when we, in Israel now, I think in all over the world, there is a problem between the right wing and the left wing. And the world is in a real danger from that.
Yeah.
And all of them are good people that want to have peace, that want to have a good life, but they fight with each other because they have different ideas. One go to the left and one go to the right.
Yeah.
And they see with my family, people start to get angry about each other because they are, part of them are right wing and part of them is left wing. And I see that this polarization is getting very, very strong. And it really hints us about the dangerous place we are now. This polarity that, and this picture, they try to make me understand why it should be that the two opposites should be living together. The flower gets his life from the butterfly because the butterfly fertilizes him.
Yeah.
And the butterfly get his life from the food he get from the flower. And they are both living and nourishing each other and gave life together. And I think the symbol of the Star of David and the yin and yang and many old symbols that we have, the real meaning of them is this one. The idea of the yin yang and the Star of David and many old, very old symbols is that our goal is understanding the oneness. And it's a very, very small and ancient symbol that we don't pay attention to the real meaning of that. It's opposite triangles that match exactly one on another. And if you put a point in the middle of one triangle, it hits the point of the other triangle of the opposite side.
Okay.
What it means that the opposite triangles have a common place exactly in the middle of both of them.
Wow.
And these symbols is our dreaming. We dream in symbols too.
Yep.
Now the dreaming is the highest self of us. It's weird, it's funny, because it seems like there is a smarter one of us. We are much smarter than we live. And in dreams, we made dreams that going to hint us how to make our life better. When you go to a psychologist and he understands your dreams, he really can understand by your dream your situation, because your dreams are very smart, but they are you. You know the answer. That's why you give yourself a dream like that.
Yeah.
So the place that is so smart in your side that have this dream is your inner consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I always define it as sort of like the right brain that's in contact with the universe, whereas the left brain is the ego that believes in the separation, like I'm separate from everything. And when you go to
exactly.
sleep, your ego shuts down and you're able to tap into sort of the oneness concepts that you don't have during the waking state.
Exactly. This right brain is connected to, I think, to the oneness.
Yeah.
To God, to oneness, to everything. But
And that
our
would be
left brain.
So no, I would just say that I would say you probably agree that all the answers are there. It's the ability to tap into the answer. We just don't see it. We're sort of blind by our conscious ego mind, but all the answers are there for everybody to get. It's just the access to it, the ability to access the
Yes.
information in the field or wherever it is.
Yes, and I think there is our left brain is very logical and mathematical and thinks with forms and borders, and our right brain is free and can have his inspiration. But it's not an accident. It seems that we are in a development of the connection between them, between the left brain and the right brain.
Wow. Beautiful.
And going back to the sea, Rumi have a beautiful sentence about that. He says that you are not a drop in the ocean, you are all the ocean in a drop.
Yeah.
And this is the meaning. When the rivers go back to the sea, is getting the oneness.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lost. Most of us get afraid of the oneness because we think we're going to get lost there. We're going to lose our individuality. But the opposite is going to happen. You're going to be all the sea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the fear of the ego that it wants to be in charge. It doesn't want to leave. It doesn't want to be with everybody else. It's separate.
Yes, he thinks that you're going to be dissolved by being one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, we can go to the picture below.
Wow.
But this is based on the Kabbalah. It's called the Tree of Life. It's interesting because it's a very close to very Hindus mystical way of thinking, and the Sufis. It seems that the deep understanding of the Bible is very, very look-alike from different religions. the Sufis and the Kabbalah and the real secret Hindus like non-duality, it seems that they are talking very similar, really, and each one of them is have its own speciality of something. And I think if we get them all together, you're gonna get a very rich wisdom from combining them.
Yeah.
Uh, this is
And that
gonna
may be
be
what the UFO community is doing, is that they're bringing up these parallels in different religious and ancient concepts and words and putting it all together. Whereas in the other world, everybody's in their own little thing. It's almost like we're the people that are making these connections between all these different concepts.
yes, and that's why I think this is very, very the thing with the UFOs and the aliens, and realizing that is very important for all of us, because I think if we have a chance to make peace between people, between countries, between peace in the world, it's going to be probably in through the or religious point or spiritual people from each different religious or country. I think only them have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
We can do it we try to do it for many years, and it seems that it's very hard. I think so. I think our hope is that this spiritual world gonna touch everyone, and that is the good future that we can have of peaceful one, because of this spiritual connection between different spiritual groups.
Yeah. And that's why I think your message is so important, because you're putting this all together. And I think yours is based on sort of intuitive stuff. It's not something that your left brain sort of thought up. You're sort of tapping into these sort of higher truths and bringing them down and expressing them. So I really appreciate the fact you're doing this.
Mm. There is another one.
There's two more.
This is a picture that a publisher took to make the cover of Edgar Cayce book Atlantis in Israel.
Oh.
Yeah, and just
Had you read Edgar Cayce early on?
After the contact, I was looking for any information that was close to what I felt, and I read Edgar Cayce too. Yes,
Okay.
I read him.
I read Edgar Cayce before I had the UFO sighting. I had no interest in UFOs, but I did have an interest in Edgar Cayce. And it's, I guess, the same with you, is when you read it, then you go, oh, this is like the connection, the bells go off, the lights turn on, and it's like, oh, this is you feel the relationship between the two ideas.
Yes, it's very, very interesting way of looking.
You've got these orbs in a couple of photographs. What is there any symbolism to these small orb objects moving around in these photographs, in these paintings?
I don't really understand it myself, but the feeling that I got from that picture is a different dimension in reality.
Okay.
It's like a place in our consciousness that can go to other dimension. And I think that's why the publisher took this picture, because it really fits the idea of Atlantis and that guy Cayce about their developed consciousness.
That's fascinating, because I always point out your story that because because people always say, this is flesh and blood aliens, and I always refer to how the beings left when they left your room, how they became translucent, and then they become like the little ball, and then it disappears. And so
Yeah,
the question is it a flesh and blood human being, or is it a ball of light? And if it's a ball of light, does it eat bacon, eggs, toast, and coffee in the morning?
yeah,
And this idea that people are starting to bring up, this idea of the orbs, that a lot of people have the concept that's how they move around. They come out of the orbs, they go back in the orbs, and then that's how they move back into whatever they're coming from, the other dimension or wherever they're coming from.
yes, yes. I think that we there are many people that think that those beings are spiritual beings, and others think that why there is no reason that they are living other living in other stars. So it could be that there is life in other stars, maybe.
Yeah,
But the thing is that if you are in a very, very far star and you can achieve the ability to come to Earth, you're probably going to be very
yeah,
developed. So this development is not such an easy thing to do, because if we look at us, for example, if we are that we are very we got to a stage of development that we made the atomic power.
yeah,
And from that point, if we will not be good in a good behavior to each other, and like should be spiritual and not only mechanical thinking, we're going to destroy ourselves.
yeah,
So it's a border that probably most of the creatures that came here passed that border, and they
yeah,
became so much spiritual that they can come here.
yeah.
And this
Oh,
is another reason that they cannot be bad, because
yeah,
if they achieve this ability of spiritual ability to come to be a physical or not, they can be only positive. Because if they were not positive, they will probably destroy themselves many, many years before.
yeah. And the other concept I always bring up, and that's important because it's your message, is the oneness. And I say, in order for them to get here, they have to understand the concept of oneness, that there is no time, there is no space, it's all here, it's all now, it's all one thing. That as long
Exactly.
as you believe there's separation, that they're out there and we're here, then you're going to use rocket engines and you're never going to get there. And so it's this idea, even if I don't know if you know the story that Ben Rich, who ran Lockheed Skunk Works, one guy, he said, "We've got technology to take ET home." And an engineer was in the room and asked him, "Ben, how do they get here? How does the propulsion system work? How does it, how do they get here?" And he said, "Let me ask you a question. What do you know about ESP?" And the guy said, "Means everything in time and space is connected." He said, "That's how it works." And that's the whole concept of the oneness, that it's all one thing. They're here right now. If there's no time and space, they're here, we're all in the same one thing, and they're just popping in and they're popping out. And but you have to understand the oneness concept in order to move through time and space to do that. And so that's why I think this oneness message is so terribly important. And the other thing that you mentioned, the atomic bomb, the idea that people would wonder, why did they all come here at the same time after we detonated the atomic bomb? And again, that's the oneness concept, that it's a bell. The universe is a bell, and when you detonate an atomic bomb, you ring the bell, the corner of the bell, the whole bell rings. And of course, the entire universe knows that we detonated the atomic bomb because it's all one thing. It's not like there's a separation where they don't hear it or they don't feel it or whatever. Whatever we do here affects the entire bell. It's all one thing.
Exactly. Beautiful. Because yes, it seems that this ability that we get to the nuclear size of matter is very important, because if we see the quantum mathematics now, that find
Yeah,
that the rules there is totally different. In the matter of there is no space or time on those small particles.
Yeah.
Actually, they realize it's a different dimension. They will not, they're not saying that, but I think this is when the rules of nature is different, it's a different dimension, because what's going on there, people cannot understand. They can see it, how it behaves mathematically, but they don't realize what's going on there in that oneness, because these particles are one. And I think when we human started to play with this amazing power that is in the nuclear matter, those spiritual beings understood that we are in a dangerous place.
Yeah.
Because we playing with fire without understanding what we are doing. Yeah. It's like we are tapping to the most strongest power there is. This is the oneness itself. But we play like children there, and we don't know what we are doing. Yeah. And on the other side, this oneness is the real basic of reality, and it is very important for us to really know how to use it, and how to tap into it with our consciousness, not with weapon.
Yeah, and you point out quantum physics. I think we should point out that the more people do experiments on the quantum level, the more it backs up what you and I and the mystics have been saying for a long time. It's not moving away from oneness, it's moving towards oneness, that they're starting to verify everything that mystics have been saying for a long time.
Exactly. It's the real, it's like the mystic says that the real essence of our reality is one.
Yeah.
The idea of God is the same. We just don't speak that way today, but this is the idea of God, that everything is one and we are part of it. So you know, when this thing that when they left, these beings, when they hold hands in a circle and started to spin, if we look at that from the science way of thinking, if you take parts and move them very fast, very fast, when this matter that goes spinning very fast, close to the speed of light, it's going to disappear. This is the relativity of Einstein. He saw that was his finding, that if you take matter and made him go very, very fast, he's going to change his size. His physical size is going to be smaller. So those creatures, this is what they done. They started to be spinning on a circle and started to be small. And where did they gone? They gone to the really, probably this dimension that they talk about. We came from a different dimension. Yeah. For us, this dimension is a very, very small thing. And probably this is the quantum world.
And it may all be right here and right now. They're not really going anywhere. They're just moving to another dimension in the here and the now.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And if you think why the time, the real time is one, if we want to measure the present, we're going to get a very small number, because the past it look like is not exist anymore. The future is not yet. Yeah. We have only the present. So how long is the present? You go very, very, very small point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Endless point. This endless point is all the time.
Yeah.
This is the oneness of time. And probably the way we look at time is we differentiate between the past and the future. that is exist all the time, and we only observing the present
Yeah.
in our left brain.
Yeah.
Because the right brain is all the place. The
Yeah.
right brain is completely the oneness.
Yeah. I agree. Let's go to the last one here, and then I got one more question for you.
Oh, this is the book. It's already see that picture. I think
Oh,
this is the end.
this is the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay.
I got one more question for you, and I want
Mhm.
to maybe get you to talk about what you're planning in your second book. Let me stop the share screen here
Yeah.
first. Hang on. Stop share. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful, and I'm it's exactly what I expected, that there'd be these very intricate messages in terms of what you're painting, all this symbolism, which I guess is the way that the message comes across, is using these right brain images that sort of symbolize what reality is all about. So, what's in your second book?
Well, it seems that the second book gonna be going a little bit deeper into the idea of oneness, like give examples of that, and the main thing probably going to be our language, because I really believe that when we will start to use the understanding of our language, we're going to understand our limitations, and then we can really widen and go beyond the limitations with our body, with our physical world, with the left brain, because the language is on the left brain.
Yeah.
And what we should develop is the left brain, because the right brain is totally with God. All the work here is on the left brain.
Yeah.
And this is going to be like make a bridge between the left and the right, and then we are going to be much more than we are now. And the understanding of language is going to be very helpful, and it's going to be like a game. It's going to be funny. I started to do it with my friend. They are laughing all the time because it's like children playing.
Yeah.
You really feel like your understanding. It's like tickling your brain.
Yeah. Wow.
The language, yeah.
Fascinating, because I know you sort of know how to do a book. You, when you first started, we were talking about it, and you weren't too sure about translating the language, so you've sort of got it down where you can start to spend more time and think about the message rather than how to get the book and that sort of stuff. So I'm glad you've put out the material. I'm fascinated. We'll put the link. We're gonna set up a Facebook site which will have all the artists on there, and you can put stuff on there. And we're going to try to give an opportunity to people, if people are selling prints or originals or whatever, because I didn't realize there are people who actually collect experiencer art. They go
Nice.
around the world, and and it may be very valuable stuff in the future, because we are sort of on the leading edge of, most people don't realize what's going on, but the experiencer, I always believe, is on the leading edge of the new world. And I think this art will be very important in the future to tell the story of these people who knew when it first started, and they realized something weird was going on. So we'll link that up, and if you want to put your art up there, we will do that.
Okay.
And
And I
when
think
you do the second book, make sure we do another interview, and we'll go through that material.
great, great. And you're talking a lot about music, and I think that this Facebook, there are many musicians that I met that really get connect with the aliens by the
Yeah.
music, with the music. It's amazing.
And which musicians have you talked to, like in
Well,
Israel or?
most of them were very DJs of
Okay.
DJs of what kind of, it's not acid music. It's
Hip hop or rap
no,
or
no. Never mind. Music.
yeah.
They. It seems that it's like the same, like visual music and visual. It's like different ways of talking, of languages of the same right brain.
Wow.
You can
Maybe
get
down
it.
the road, you and I will have to work on a book on that or the art because
You made a beautiful book with
I
this.
did the one book on music, but then people
Yeah.
started sending me here like you're talking about now, and it's almost like there's a second book that
Mhm.
there's all these other stories that they say, oh, you forgot this musician, you forgot this one, and because I had no musical background, I never really realized who these people were, and it's
Yeah.
only when people give me the lead to check this song out, the lyrics or whatever, or the person had an experience. So maybe
Mhm.
we'll do that or the art thing. There's probably you can maybe even maybe tackle the art subject because there's a lot of artists. We're going through these artists and link that all together. Now that you're in the sort of the book business, because that's what I say is basically you do is all you can really do is worry about you came into the world, I came into the world at this time in this place in the middle of whatever it is,
Yeah.
and maybe we came for a reason. And I always encourage people, I'm glad you did, is to record your story for future generations. That's all you can really do
Yeah.
is you can influence what you're doing in the world. It really doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's what am I doing here? What am I supposed to be doing? And to document your story, because everybody has an important story
Yes.
and they're always worried about what everybody else is doing instead of trying to figure out what I'm doing and what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you've done that, and let's work together on some stuff and stay in touch. And again, I really thank you for putting this message out. I will tell people this is the message. 54% of all experiencers in the free survey that was done, and the free survey really backs Ray Hernandez is really pushing your book as well.
Yeah.
The free survey, 54% of all experiencers say they were talked to about oneness and love. And that is something that nobody's going to figure out. They're going to think, oh, they're going to give us free energy.
Yeah.
They're going to, eat us or whatever. And they
Yeah.
don't realize this bottom message of oneness. So I'm really happy that you brought this out because to me, that is the number one message. There is nothing else.
Mm.
That's the bottom line to why they're here, what this is all about, is getting that message across. I'm glad you're doing it.
It's great that you combine all of the people for that and combine them together with you, and you make a very important work.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
important.
Beautiful. Yossi, thank you. And let's do it again. What have you got coming up? Have you got some more interviews scheduled or whatever? Or how's
Uh,
the book doing?
the book is okay. It's
Yeah.
getting even better.
Yeah. You're becoming
Uh,
a well known, uh, people are starting to know your story.
yeah,
And,
it
and
seems.
and it's kind of an interesting story, which I think what they do is the theory of wow. They do this weird thing where they're disappearing and they're green and they're all this kind of stuff. And everybody watches the story and they don't realize that as Yossi's telling the story, they're learning this concept of oneness. It's
That's
sort of
it.
like they
That's it.
they indirectly bring the story through the back door, but it has to be weird. Otherwise, you'd never if your story wasn't weird, nobody would listen to you and say, come on, it was a dream. Don't worry about it. It's like
Yes, it's amazing. With my cover, it was the same. I put this green alien. It's
yeah,
very weird picture. It's
yeah.
and one called me and told me, "Hey, I looked at the cover of the book. I thought it's someone making a joke. What did you put there? What's that?" But this is reality, and in a way, it makes a
Synchronicity.
synchronicity
Yeah.
that work with itself. We just have to tell what we saw, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's working itself.
Yeah. That's all you can really do is
Yeah.
realize that you are responsible for yourself. And when you leave, I don't know if you've ever started Dr. Michael Newton, where they do the regression, where people, they leave the world and they go in front of a council and the review of your life. And apparently, according to Newton, they only ask you one question. So how'd it work out? Because you planned it, you put it all together. It's like you can't bring up Hillary Clinton or the dog ate my homework or the evil aliens or whatever. They're going to go time out, time out. This is about you. What did you do? You said you were going to do this, you're going to do that. And so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. anything I can do to help you, Yossi, just ask. I'm fully behind your story. I think it's one of the most important stories in the world in ufology, and I'll do whatever I can to promote it. It is what it's all about. You've got it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's an honor. We'll do it again.
Yes.
Talk to you later.
Bye bye.